Um, So we now have the pleasure of the swearing in of our two Ross Council members who were reelected. Linda, you want to take care of that?
Well, I'm going to give you each a microphone. You can both stand.
You have to sing.
And repeat after me. Chris. If you can raise your right hand. Yeah, and repeat after me. When I say I, you'll say your name. Okay, so I
Julie McMillan.
Elizabeth Robbins,
do solemnly affirm
do solemnly affirm
that I will support and defend
that I will support and defend
the Constitution of the United States
the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of California
and the Constitution of the State of California
against all enemies,
against all enemies,
foreign and domestic,
foreign and domestic,
that I will bear true faith
and I will bear true faith
and allegiance to the Constitution
and allegiance to the Constitution
of the United States
of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of California,
and the Constitution of the State of California,
that I take this obligation freely
that I take this obligation freely
without any mental reservation
without any mental reservation
or purpose of evasion,
or purpose of evasion,
and that I will well and faithfully
and that I will well and faithfully
discharge the duties
discharge the duties
upon which I am about to enter.
upon which I'm about to enter.
Congratulations, welcome back.
Congratulations. We're pleased to have you both continuing with us. The next item is Town Council recognition of Elizabeth Robbins for her service as mayor. That's again a very pleasant thing for me to do. Elizabeth, we appreciate that you guided us through a very difficult year with ongoing pandemic issues, and yet managed to get us to a point where we can have these meetings that are open or that people can attend virtually if they wish to do so. You dealt with issues, in my opinion, you dealt with issues with a lot of consideration and thought. And I appreciated particularly as Mayor Pro Tem, the way that you made sure that I was on board with the issues that were coming before us, and the discussions that we had about bringing forth those those issues. Difficult, generally speaking, I'd say you did a great job of keeping us on track on a lot of issues during a very difficult year because of pandemic. Issues kept throwing bugs into all sorts of things that we tried to do, and you managed to get them done. So it's my pleasure to present you with a little something in recognition of your service, and so that you can remember your service.
Thank you very much. It's been an honor and a pleasure to serve as mayor, and Beach, you will be a wonderful mayor. I can tell. Oh my goodness. It's something to help get through the nights after the meetings. Thank you so much. Thank you, I appreciate it.
Well, I thank you on behalf of the whole town of Ross, because I think under what were somewhat fairly difficult situation, you managed to guide us through and keep us on track. So thanks a lot.
Well, thank you very much. It really was a team effort, though. The whole council got us through the year, but thank you.
Okay, the next item is the mayor's report. In this first message of my term as
Excuse me, Mayor. I think you've got open time next.
Did I miss an open time? Oh, yeah. This then is the time for open time for public expression. Any speaker who wishes to speak is limited to 3 minutes, and this time is, the purpose of this time is to permit speech, comments on issues that are not on the agenda tonight. Is there anyone who wishes to address us?
Thank you, Mayor Cool and members of the council. Antonia and I are here tonight to say thank you to all of you and to make official the fact that in our town, the Marin Art and Garden Center is now on the National Register of Historic Places. And we think this is a first for our town, and we think this is very special for this 77-year-old institution. And Antonia, who is the executive director and the leader of all of this, has a few words to say, but we do appreciate all of the support that you have given us through the years that got us to this point. So thank you.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, council members, it's a thrill to be able to come with that news today. I know some of you already know about it. Linda, thank you so much for helping us put it into the newsletter so that everyone in town will be excited, I hope, and share our really great gratification that this significant honor has been placed at the Marin Art Garden Center, which has been a community treasure for 77 years. So thank you. I brought a couple of copies of the Pacific Sun, which has a great picture on the front from the when the Marin Art and Garden Fair was the toast of the town from 1946 to 1970, and a wonderful article. We also got great press coverage in the San Francisco Chronicle, so put us on the map in a good way, as well as our beloved IJ. So we're all celebrating, and we would like to invite everyone on the dais here to please come on August 3rd. We're going to convene at 9:30. It is our anniversary date. Date of the founding of the center, and at 10 o'clock we're going to have remarks. Our State Historic Preservation Officer, Julianne Polanco, will be there to speak about the National Register and the State Preservation Commission, and we look forward to having you all with us, all of our wonderful elected officials, so come celebrate with us. And I have one other piece of news, which I hope will bring joy to your hearts as well. And that is that several years of very detailed research and planning have led to the adoption of a master plan for Marin Art Garden Center that takes into account fully our historic stature and takes that into account in developing a plan for the future that will keep it durable, beautiful, welcoming, and have improved access for everyone in the community and beyond. And we look forward to working with you and with the wonderful town staff to develop that plan for our phase 1 project. We hope to be bringing you the beginning pieces of that plan later this summer, and we look forward to sharing it with you. It's an exciting moment for the center, for our trustees, for our staff, and for everybody here who has been so generous. Thank you for your support.
Well, we're not permitted to respond to comments made in open time for public expression, but if I were permitted that sort of thing, I would once again say that we really congratulate you. I think this is a very distinctive honor that has happened to your group, and I know it's happened because of a lot of hard work by you two and a lot of other people. And so we want to congratulate you very much. At this time, if anyone else who isn't permitted to speak wants to say what they would if they were permitted to speak, I'll entertain it.
Well, congratulations.
Thank you, everybody. And come see us at the summer concerts. Next week is Conservation Night, and you don't have a meeting that night, I don't think, so please come over 5 o'clock. We welcome you.
They're playing now.
Yeah.
Yes, they are. Okay, now do I get to make my mayor's report, I think? In this first message of my term as mayor, I want to start with thanks to my predecessor, Elizabeth Robbins, for her leadership during a difficult pandemic year, keeping things going and even getting us back to in-person meetings while maintaining a virtual option for those who needed it. We can continue I hope we can continue to expand in-person participation, as I strongly believe that face-to-face discussion of issues really produces better decisions. Unfortunately, the reported national difficulties with attracting suitable employees are being seen here in Ross. Our police department is down 3 officers, and our chief is actually doing some of the patrol duty during this time. We also have a search for a qualified planner in our planning department. We are continuing with a part-time temporary employee to fill the gap. In the meantime, we apologize for any delays in service that are the result of these absences. We hope to be back at full strength in the near future. And finally, I'd like to hear what you all think, what any of the people in the town think. And for that purpose, I'm going to please drop by to meet me in front of the post office from 10 until 12 a.m. on the day of our council meetings, starting on August 11. So come and tell the mayor. Thank you. We now come to council committee and liaison reports. Are there any committees or who wish to report?
I have a report. I virtually attended the meeting of the Association of Bay Area Governments. There were 2 meetings, a general meeting and then a business meeting. And the most interesting part of this was a discussion of housing affordability and efforts to present to the public a bond measure to raise money to construct affordable housing. It's probably the only way we're ever going to make any progress on this issue, because we can designate areas where building is possible, but the building still has to occur. And one of the biggest impediments is simply the cost. So affordable housing is inevitably going to involve some sort of a subsidy. And the bond measure is one way to raise that. Of course, the voters would have to approve this. It is a revenue measure. So that this is all something in the formation process. There was quite a bit of discussion, and particularly the smaller cities said, please don't forget about us, because they were afraid that the larger cities, Oakland and Berkeley and San Francisco, would sort of dominate this. And I think the point was well made, that it has to be equitable, and of course they want as much support as they can get for this measure.
Are there any other liaison or reports? Okay, if there are none, we move to to staff and community reports, starting with the report by our town manager.
Good evening, Mayor and council members. Just a couple of things. So the town's 4th of July parade and the community event were a great success. I've heard a request to include a dog parade element, and staff will explore the idea as we have many dog lovers here in Ross. Big thanks to Recreation Manager Gretchen Kastets for pulling it all together, and to the rest of the town team for their support services to her. I'm going to turn it over to our police chief, Pata, who will provide you with some information regarding the town's community evacuation drill planned for Saturday morning, July 30th, and a national night out event later on in August. Chief Pata.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Well, I'm excited to tell you, after months of planning, I've been working with the Ross Valley Fire Department and our friends at the College of Marin Police Department. And we've decided to go ahead and put together an evacuation drill. So this is something that the town did last in 2019, and a lot's changed since 2019. But really, you act as if how you practice, and I mean that's true in police work, but I think it's true in everything. And so doing this drill will be something that hopefully will inspire people to get their Go kits ready and sign up for Alert Marin. And so we will be there on the 30th. It's early, it's at 9 o'clock in the morning, but that was kind of designed on purpose so we didn't ruin your whole day. It'll be a quick drill. We'll have plenty of information out, including this flyer that will be posted and we'll send out that has directions on where the drill will be. And essentially, members of our community will be leaving their homes and driving to an area that we've prearranged this time strictly for the purpose of handing out information. And I know some of you have mentioned that you'd like to participate, and we'll have a meeting. I'll put together a Zoom meeting for us in the next week or so for that. Of course, in a real evacuation or in a real situation, you really want to get out of town and you want to go far out of town if you can. We've picked this location because it was available to us. It didn't disrupt business. So the College of Marin has been really kind to allow us to use this spot, Lot 15. So we're excited to put this on. Our friends at Ross Valley Fire Department and the college have been super helpful, and I'm happy. It'll be fun to put this together. After that, a few days later, we'll have our first ever National Night Out here in the town. And the National Night Out was started in 1970. It's a movement designed to bring the community together with their police department just to get to know them. There's really nothing more than just being accessible, being available to have a conversation, and just to kind of get to know the people that are protecting you and providing you with security. National Night Out's been going on for 38 years now, with 38 million neighborhoods participating across the country. This will be our first. We'll see how it goes. We'll have a little block party on the Common, and myself and a few of our other officers will be there, and we may even have some snacks. So that'll go on from 5 p.m. to 7 p.m. that night. And that's what I have for you for right now.
Thank you, Chief.
Oh, yeah, National Night Out will be a few nights later after the 30th. It'll be on August 2nd, Tuesday night.
Thank you. I don't see anyone from the Ross Property Owners Association here to report, so we'll move to our consent agenda. Yes, ma'am.
I was asked by Ross Property Owners Association to give their report for them. Is that okay?
Sure.
Okay. They had an appointment. Okay. And this is from Elena Batalla. The RPOA is working with a contractor to make some modifications to the new porta potty enclosures. No ETA on when they will be finished yet, but RPOA is working on this topic in consultation with our Public Works Director. RPOA is holding their Live on the Common event on Friday, August 26th. They will have Baywood artists there to showcase their artwork. One Tam van will be on site bringing awareness on how to preserve Mount Tam. Soul Ska is the band that will go on the stage. Marin Girls Choir will be the opening act. Other vendors include Dom Chi Designs, Fiorello Gelato, Jam Joy's Bungalow Salad, Salt Point Cocktails. There will be some entities from the town of Ross that may be having informational tables, such as police, Age Friendly, the school parcel tax educators, Historical Society, etc. Those are still being firmed up. RPOA, we're happy to hear they're going to be getting some volunteers that will staff the trash and recycling and composting bins. This is at the repeated request by Marin Sanitary Services to reduce the amount of contamination that is occurring after events. It's a common issue. It's not unique to Ross, but they'll be doing having some volunteers there. Well, that's fantastic. Especially because Marin Sanitary is providing additional carts and collection to RPOA's events and a handful of the town's events, including 4th of July as well, at no charge. Other events on RPOA's calendar include Live on the Common events on Friday, October 14th. They're also going to have a Live on the Common event on May 12th, which is a Friday in the upcoming year, so be sure to mark your calendars. Winterfest will be December 2nd, and the Ross School has approved the setup on their blacktop and use of a power supply for a ice skating rink. One of those, it's not real ice, it's like other kind of ice. Yeah, sounds fun. The Ross Auxiliary is enhancing mobile director and thinking of how to make it more friendly to residents who are not tech savvy. The Auxiliary is putting an emphasis on philanthropy this year. The RPOA is working on a new resident kit to provide to new residents when they open up a new mailbox. There will be a link to a digital welcome kit page as well. And that's all in the report. Thank you.
I remember when we moved here in 1974, we got a Ross residence kit. Okay, yes.
I'm not sure, Krista, if you know the answer to this, but if, for example, the Marin Wildfire Prevention Authority would like to be at that event on the Common, should I contact Elena directly?
They've been very receptive to that. I'd be happy to help facilitate as well.
I think it'd be great.
Sure.
So they could talk about the Greater Ross Valley Shaded Fuel Break
Great idea.
and have some maps.
Okay, I'm happy to follow up for you if you'd like.
Oh, that would be great. Thank you.
Okay.
Okay, that brings us to our consent agenda. There are 8 items on the consent agenda. Does any member of the council wish to pull any of those 8 items for separate discussion?
I'm so sorry. Forgive me, I have forgotten part of my report.
Okay,
Is it okay if
Sure.
we continue? My apologies, Rebecca. And lastly, Planning and Building Director Rebecca Markwick will provide you with a summary of Tuesday night's housing element update community meeting and next steps for this important project. Thank you, Rebecca.
Thank you for remembering me, Krista. So I was giving you the look. So July has been a big month for community engagement with our housing element update. We had the community open house on the 12th, and it was a big success. There were more than 50 residents that attended the event. And the point of the event was to learn about the requirements for the housing element and for them to share their thoughts on strategies that are right for Ross. There were lots of thoughtful questions and insights shared by the attendees. We also had a pop-up event at the post office previous to that on July 6th, which helped spread the word about the open house and gave people an early opportunity sort of for more quick input. We also had 2 email blasts sent out to the morning after email list, which has proven to be successful. We had a townwide mailer sent out to everyone as well. And for those people who are not able to attend the event, we do have an online survey. It's live now on our website. It'll be up through August 11th for any community member to participate and share their thoughts on the housing, meeting the housing needs. Let's see. We're also sort of engaging further conversations with housing needs with key property owners, including Branson, Ren Art and Garden, Lagunitas Country Club, and the downtown property owners. Now, sort of after we had this community event, we're gathering more input. The focus of the work turns to refining the sites map and key strategies for the housing element, taking the input we got on the 12th and putting it into the draft housing element. We anticipate that we'll have a draft for everybody to review at the next community event, which is scheduled for September.
So there will be another community event where you'll be presenting information and getting feedback?
Correct.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
That now brings us to the consent agenda, as I started to say earlier. There are 8 items on the consent agenda. Does any member of the council wish to request that we pull any of those items for separate discussion? Seeing none, is there any member of the public who wishes to request that we pull any item from the consent agenda for separate discussion? Seeing none, we'll move on to the next item, which is public hearings on planning
We have
projects.
to vote.
Oh, sorry, yep.
All right, let's take the vote. How do you vote, Councilmember McMillan? Aye. Councilmember Robbins?
Aye.
Councilmember Breckus? Aye. Councilmember Kircher?
Aye.
And Mayor Cool.
Aye.
And consent agenda items A through H passes unanimously.
Okay. We now come to public hearings on planning projects. And we have 18 Madrona Avenue for design review and town council consideration of adoption of resolution number 2260. Rebecca?
I don't have a staff report tonight, but I am available for questions, should you have any.
Okay. Do the applicant or any representative of the applicant wish to make any sort of a presentation? If so. No, we don't necessarily need to unless they want. Okay. Any member of the council have any questions for Rebecca regarding this project? Okay.
Excuse me, Mayor, I have a question as to what the status now is of the application. I think we all received an email from the applicant indicating that they would prefer not to have to lower the structure, the east part of the structure. Something I think that was suggested by at least one member of the ADR group. Are we, yes.
I'm the project architect, and the owners, Christine and Peter, are there. Thanks, Rebecca, for helping us get before the council. Thank you guys for your time. Yeah, let me try to clarify that. We received a lot of unanimous neighbor support. We're in with all the regulations and the design review committee. There were 2 members that we tried to work with a little bit, so we dropped the roof. But we are asking of the council tonight that on the western roof that we dropped, we would like to go ahead and make those changes, but on the eastern roof over the bedrooms, they were very minor changes, dropping it 6 inches and peeling back one of the roof cantilevers. And we would like to not make that change. And in speaking with Rebecca, I believe it could be handled with a condition of approval. That's what we're asking of the council tonight. Hopefully that clarifies it.
Does any member of the council have any questions for the representative? Okay, then we'll bring it back to the council. Is there any member of the public who wishes to comment on this project? Seeing none, we'll bring it back to the council for discussion and resolution.
And we also have to need to check whether there's any members of the public
Yeah.
online.
There is not any members of the public online.
Okay. Is there any discussion, or would someone like to make a motion?
I'd like to just make one comment. I thought the project looked very nice. And I thought the one concern I had was the story poles. And the fact that the story poles didn't reflect the bump out of the garage, nor did it reflect that one bump out. And so these were lower level bump outs. And, I asked Rebecca to take a look at the, what we described. And I think it's a little vague, but I think that, a better practice would be that any extension of a building, whether on the first floor or the second, should be marked by story poles, because story poles are such an important form of notice to neighbors. And so I'm not, you know, it just occurred to me on this project, but I think for future projects, we should really conform to any extension, first or second, gets story poles and flagging, if that's how they're gonna do it.
Is there any other member of the council who has any comment on this item? Okay, does somebody want to make a motion?
I'll move to approve and add that condition of approval that was it the west wing or the east wing? So the west, with the condition of approval, the west wing be modified to avoid the suggested ADR lower drop and and what do you call that? The eve extension being reduced as requested by the applicant.
A second.
All right, let's take the vote. How do you vote, Councilmember McMillan?
Aye.
Councilmember Robbins?
Aye.
Councilmember Breckus?
Aye.
Councilmember Kircher?
Aye.
And Mayor Cole?
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously.
Okay, that brings us to item 14, which is town council consideration of introduction of ordinance 716, which amends chapter 10.28 of our ordinances regarding stopping, standing, loading, and parking. And Rich, you're presenting that one?
Yes, thank you, Mayor Cool and members of the council. As the mayor mentioned, this is the first reading and introduction of ordinance number 716 to amend Ross Municipal Code, chapter 10.28, which is the vehicular stopping, standing, loading, and parking ordinance. The staff report contains the background information on how we got to this point. And essentially, the modifications or the amendment to the parking ordinance, there's two parts to it. One is a little bit of cleanup on the limits of parking restrictions on Sir Francis Drake Boulevard. This is at the intersection of Bolinas Avenue as you're heading northwest into San Anselmo. This is you'll be on your right side in between the Winship Bridge and just after the second crosswalk in San Anselmo, just so that we can identify the no parking that kind of matches the existing red curb in that location. So just a little cleanup on the ordinance there. The main part of tonight's discussion is the introduction of the parking restrictions for designating and parking at the EV station stalls that we put in a few months back. So basically, it's pretty simple. What the new law or code will be is that if you are parked, you can only park in the EV station stalls if you are actively charging or if you're actually connected to a charger. We don't specify whether you're actually actively charging or not. Just if you are an EV with a hook and the connector is hooked up to your car, you're essentially okay. And that's something, there is an element there that if we want to enforce the fact that you're hooked up and you're not charging, we can add to this ordinance. The definition of a charging activity is where you're actively charging the vehicle. So it's a little bit ambiguous. In the current code, as stated, or as presented here in this first reading, is you only need to be parked there with the connector on your car. And you also, the other part of the ordinance is you can't be blocking that spot either unless you're actively charging. So it's a pretty simple ordinance, and it does mirror the California Vehicular Code ordinance for regulating parking in EV station parking stalls. A little bit of background information to provide you tonight for what's the activity at these parking stalls over the past month since the last time we talked. I think we gave a little bit of information at the last council meeting on the usage. So since the last council meeting, the handicap stall's only been used once in the past 30 days for an 18-minute charging session. The other two the other two stalls have averaged about 34 sessions each. So total about 69 sessions in those two stalls. On the average, they are about 1.5 to 2 hour sessions where they are actively charging. I have enough data provided that shows that for the most part, by and large, they park there, they charge, and then they disconnect. They're either haven't completely charged yet, or they're done with what they're doing and they disconnect and they move on. There are some instances where they've actually parked for about 4 hours, 3 to 4 hours after the charger has stopped. I get this kind of information in real time, and I can download it any time. So it kind of shows the trend there mostly is people are obeying the protocol for parking at EV stations. They park, they charge, and they leave. I would say there's about 5 or 6 where they sat there and they were still plugged in, but they were done charging for 3 or 4 hours. One guy parked at about 10 o'clock at night, charged for about 3 hours, and the next morning at about 8 o'clock in the morning, he drove away. So he only had like a 3-hour charging session, but he parked there about 6 or 7 hours. Very rare. So I think staff recommends that we kind of stay with the ordinance that we have now. It kind of covers the trend at the parking stalls that we're seeing. So really that concludes my report, and I'm here to answer any questions that you might have on this item. Thank you.
Has the town received any complaints from people about not being able to find a parking space, and complaints to the effect that we've essentially subtracted 2 parking places?
I have not received any complaints, and no one has reported any complaints to me yet.
Anyone else have any questions? Okay, I don't see any members of the public. Are there any members of the public online who wish to comment on this event?
There are no raised hands, Mayor.
Okay. Guess we bring it back to the council for discussion once this vehicle nearby goes away. No, it sounds like a lawnmower.
I'll move to adopt the ordinance.
Is there a second?
Move to introduce.
I'm sorry, thank you.
Let's take the vote. How do you vote, Councilmember McMillan?
Aye.
Councilmember Robbins?
Aye.
Councilmember Breckus?
Aye.
Councilmember Kircher?
Aye.
And Mayor Cool.
Aye.
And the motion passes unanimously.
Okay, this brings us to item 15, which is town council consideration of adoption of resolution number 2257, Assembly Bill 361, amending opening meeting laws to expand teleconference meeting options during the state of emergency. Who's leading off on that?
I'll lead off on that. So this item has been a reoccurring item on the last 3 meetings you've had to provide the council and with some flexibility in case there's an absence caused by COVID or illness. The council has, under AB 361, on a reoccurring basis now, adopted this resolution that's in your packet that enables the council to remote into a council meeting without having to follow the previous Brown Act provisions where you'd have to list your house and have or wherever the location is that you're remoting in from and make it accessible, and also know that you're going to be doing that 72 hours in advance when we post the agenda. So we've adopted this resolution. Oh, we can't? Can you hear me now? All right, because I have to really put this close to me. So we've had the resolution before you to consider whether you want to continue that practice. After last council meeting, you also wanted to have a larger discussion on the format of our council meetings. So we also agendized the item to talk about whether or not you want to still have the public the ability to participate via Zoom. That's not a requirement under the Brown Act. It is a requirement if you adopt this resolution tonight, but it's not a requirement if you don't adopt the resolution, but you still want to have another way of having the public have access to meetings. Staff went ahead and in your packet, you'll see a list of what all the other cities in Marin are doing. So it's obviously, most cities are allowing the public to participate via Zoom, whether or not they're in person or not. What else are we going to? I think that kind of covers it. There's also reference in our staff report about legislation, and the latest on the legislation is my understanding. There's 2 bills that we're going to try to reform the Brown Act to allow what's been occurring the last couple of years to provide more flexibility with for council members to be able to remote in. And one bill that was the league supported stalled out and has not moved forward. The other bill the league originally supported, but has been amended so many times now to make it more onerous for a public entity to have council members to have that flexibility. The league is now opposing it. We would have to have a whole bunch of other technological requirements if we want to take advantage of it. So before you tonight is first whether or not you want to readopt that resolution and allow the council the flexibility of zooming in without having to follow the previous Brown Act requirements, and then 2, decide the formats of your future council meetings.
Now, can I ask a question?
Sure.
I might have misunderstood the connection between the 2. So you're saying that if the council adopts the ordinance that would allow individual council members to Zoom in, then we do have to continue to offer a Zoom option for the public as well.
That's correct.
But if we don't adopt that, the prior rules that we followed before the pandemic allowed a council member to call in. And so would we still have that option if we didn't adopt the rules?
Yes, if you did not adopt the resolution tonight, we still could comply under the old Brown Act rules. That would require when we post our agenda to have the location of where you're going to call in from stated on the agenda, and you'd have the ability to call in. And that location has to be publicly accessible for members of the public. So that was the old rule, and it still applies now. The drawback to that old rule is if you are sick and we don't, you can't amend the agenda in time, you would not be able to participate.
What does amending the agenda look like? Like, for example, if we give notice,
You have to amend it 72 hours before the meeting.
But does it just have to be amended and posted right outside? It doesn't have to be mailed out?
No, it's the same way we post the original agenda, you have to redo it. So Linda could probably offer, the process we follow here, but how early do we post on?
I thought it was 72 hours.
Yeah, 72 hours. When do we post our agendas now? What
Oh,
day?
it's the Friday before.
Okay.
Yeah.
So theoretically, if you need to change that, you have until Monday to make the change.
This current resolution would let us continue, the members of the public could participate by Zoom, and a council member could at any time decide to participate by Zoom. Is that correct?
That is correct.
And that
And I
ama-
should qualify that, as long as the state of emergency is in effect.
Yes, okay. But that gives a council member the option of participating if one of us tests positive and doesn't want to come, for example.
Correct.
I mean, it's like a really reasonable thing to do, as long as COVID's still out there.
I think we'd all like to stop all of this, remoteness and stuff. I think until things are completely over, we have to option available for us as well as for the public.
I agree. Excuse me. Is that right? I agree. I mean, with COVID, the problem is if you were feeling not well and you take a home test and you realize you have COVID, then I think your duty is don't come to the meeting, but there wouldn't be enough time to amend the agenda. And it's conceivable we could be in a pinch if a couple of members tested positive. We might not even have a quorum. And also, I think out of consideration to the public, applicants for projects, people who have to come to these meetings or be heard, if we really had a serious situation with a variant, and who knows, we might, I hate to say it, but we might, given the way things are going. So I think both for the public and for the council being able to function in an efficient way, I would favor simply continuing this until such time as we have more assurance that we can close this down.
So if I understand you, Bill, you're supporting the version that would still require disclosure of the location or not?
No, I mean, I'm supporting the continuing this resolution that we've been operating under.
Is there any further discussion? I'm not sure if we asked if there was any public indication of public desire to address this.
There are no raised hands, Mayor.
Okay. Krista?
I would just like to add that, this past Monday night was the first night that the ADR was held, well, it was planned to be held in person with the Zoom function in addition. And so, and that was at the ADR's request that the council agreed to, and we did budget. There is a additional expense, and we did budget for it. So I just want to make sure to remind you that the ADR is utilizing the same format that the council is.
Does the ADR have to get permission from us to make any changes?
Yeah, I would think so. Well, especially because it was an additional expense, and they are advisory to the council. So we did bring it to the council for your approval. So I just want to remind you that the ADR is functioning in that fashion.
Okay, does someone wish to make a motion?
So I move adoption of resolution 2257.
Second.
All right, let's take the vote. How do you vote, Councilmember McMillan?
Aye.
Councilmember Robbins?
Aye.
Councilmember Breckus?
Aye.
Councilmember Kircher?
Aye.
And Mayor Cole?
Aye.
The motion passes unanimously.
Okay, that brings us to item 16, which is an update regarding the Ross Valley Fire Department's draft request for proposals to a study to establish policy options for the RVFD board surrounding future leadership and governance. Just to go back a step, what we're considering here is that the contract that the RVFD currently has with the county fire department to provide us certain administrative services, including those of a chief, will run out in August of next year, 2023. And we are now in the process of determining how we're going to govern things next. Since our last meeting, well, before our last meeting, the RVFD had sent out an RFP to obtain the services of a consultant to advise us on which of various forms of government we should adopt. Since our last meeting, 3 entities submitted proposals, and the RVFD board last night voted to accept the bid of an entity called Limited Motion for a contract for a cost not exceeding $60,000 for the purpose of providing that service. So that's kind of where it sits now. Did I get that right?
It might have been 63.
No, it was 60.
It was a 60?
Yeah.
Okay,
You were still jet lagged.
right. Right.
So, is there any member, well, first of all, are there any questions about this proposal? You know, I don't know. That didn't get mentioned last night, I don't think.
I don't recall that either. Do you have an idea, Tammy?
I don't know for sure. The company is called Local Motion, by the way, Local Motion, and it's, I don't recall the exact timeline. They're still going to have to go get into contract with them, and, but part of their contract also includes some community outreach and working with the board. So it's a process too that they will be assisting the board with. So I'm sure it's going to have to be sometime probably late fall.
Okay. Any other questions? All right, is there any indication that anyone in the public wishes to discuss this matter?
No, Mayor.
Okay, bring it back to the council for further comment and motion if appropriate.
I don't think we need a
No,
motion.
oh, I'm sorry, there isn't any motion. That's simply a report. Okay, so that concludes the administrative agenda. We now go to no action items. First of all, is there any council correspondence that needs to be brought to our attention? Seeing none, are there any future council items to be requested? Seeing none, I believe we're done, and this meeting is adjourned.